Hi, class. Welcome to week 2 of the group course. We are going to be talking about the group counselor, which is what you will be one day when you start doing this. And you will be the group counselor when you lead your group that you're recording. The group counselor as a person. So, running a group can be kind of challenging for a lot of different reasons. A lot of the reasons are you're managing a lot of personalities. So it can be intimidating in that way. It can be overwhelming, especially if you have difficult people. But these are some characteristics of an effective leader. You're going to have courage, a willingness to model, a presence, being genuine, belief in the group process, an openness, non-defensive, and becoming aware of some issues that are arising in the group. I think in general in therapy, as a therapist, you need to come off as genuine. That hopefully is something that you are able to demonstrate to your clients, whether it be in a group setting, individual setting, couple setting, working with children. You need to have a belief that therapy can work and can change people. Well, take that back. Not that therapy changes people, but there is a probability of change that can occur from focusing on working through some things. We are not responsible necessarily for changing people. We are the ones, though, responsible for facilitating an environment where change can occur. So just keeping that in mind in general. So again, being able to identify with clients' pain, you don't want to seem shallow or fake. I mean, everyone can read through fake people. Fake people are super annoying. You don't want to be that. You want to be self-aware. I think a really huge thing with group, because people can be attacking, is that you really navigate that to not take things personal. Because again, if we start to take things personal, we might start getting defensive and then be more reactionary versus responsive. And then that affects control. We want to maintain control of the group, not in like a dictatorship way, but in a way where it's professional. We're controlling the environment to help protect the group. Now, some things that come up in group that can be kind of off-putting or whatever can be helpful. So I don't want to say that the control is like so that people can't like confront or talk to one another, but you want to make sure that you're not losing control of the group in a sense where your feelings are getting hurt and you're making it about you when it's about them. Sometimes, sure, people could say hurtful things to you, but it's trying not to take it personal. Constructive criticism, sure, we want to take it and utilize it to affect change for ourselves. But if someone's just being critical or just being a jerk because they're defensive, we don't need to be reactionary to that. So you really need to check yourself in those regards, okay? You want to create a group climate that fosters certain norms, openness, directness, respect. I think respect is huge. You want to respect the clients just as much as you would like them to respect you, but we can give respect without necessarily giving respect. And so just be mindful of that. Some of these groups are forced. Some of these groups could be in an inpatient facility. So where people are at in the process might be very different. And so attitude could be affected. Or having an attitude can be part of the process. And so those are things to be aware of, mindful of. You want to have great interpersonal skills, show warmth, kindness, and those kinds of things, again, will lead to better outcomes. Making sure to refine skills, be open to someone telling you things you could do differently or better. Group is an art because you're balancing a lot of different dynamics, and that is challenging. And it can become so beautiful, though, when it fits all together so well. And I think when you are able to juggle all those pieces and paint a beautiful picture, there's so much that can be gleaned from group that cannot be gleaned from individual therapy. And so group is a really nice addition to therapy. I think there's things that a peer can say that an individual therapist can't say. And when it's someone who's walked in those same shoes as you or similar shoes to you, maybe the information is received better. So again, active listening, reflecting, clarifying. A lot of this you talked about probably in your professional practicum class. Um, unconditional regard. We want to have good question skills. We want to confront, but in a way that's non-judgmental, with compassion. We want to empathize, summarize. All these skills that we use in an individual session, just in a larger group setting. We want to make sure we're supporting, modeling. A lot of modeling happens in groups, sometimes role playing, giving suggestions, initiating conversation, but also to like, if someone is being harmful or hurtful to anybody else, we want to make sure we step in and address that as well. We want to be an example of how to handle conflict, and so even if there's conflict in group, how you handle the conflict is modeling for the other group members, which is great. You're going to be challenged, and I think how you handle the challenges demonstrates how they can handle challenge. And you're going to be teaching a lot of skills usually. Some groups are more psychoeducational, so it could be a lot of teaching. Other groups are more process groups, which are less teaching, but still maybe learning coping skills and things of that nature, which are huge and beneficial for most people. Okay, I think having a co-leader is great. This mentions the decrease of burnout, less overwhelming. I think not good cop, bad cop necessarily, but I think it's nice to have somebody else in the group to bounce ideas off of, to not feel alone. I think some group members will relate better to one person versus another, so it gives some diversity to the group. If someone has an emergency or is out sick, the group doesn't have to be canceled. So it's nice to have that balance. It's nice to have, someone to kind of help in situations that get sticky or hard. So again, you're not alone. You're not going through this alone, which is helpful. Where you could run into issues if you don't have a great co-leader. If you don't get along, you don't see eye to eye. When I mention good cop, bad cop, I don't mean like you're setting up against one another, but if you don't have a good leader, the group can manipulate and make it be like one person's better, one person's worse, which again defeats the purpose. We're not trying to be against each other. We're trying to be on the same page. We're meant to align and to work well together. So if you and the co-leader don't work well together, that's going to probably be reflected in the group. And believe me, group members will notice. So now this can also be useful in a teaching model. Let's say you're new and there's a more experienced therapist and they want you to like learn how to run the group. Like you could be someone that kind of comes alongside them to learn how to run the group, which is, I think, super helpful. Being able to observe how someone does something before you just jump in and do it. So that could be something too that transpires in a group co-leadership model as a way to kind of train and give experience. But I do think in group, especially if it's a larger group, to have an extra person there is helpful, just managing dynamics. Group therapy has been shown to be as effective as individual treatment, and it's sometimes more effective. And I think that's because of the learning that can happen. I think learning from peers is really beneficial, and oftentimes there's just not that same experience by yourself. And so I think being able to hear other people and to be able to have a different kind of dialogue with peers versus with the clinician is really beneficial. But group could also be harmful. And so that's where us as the leader is really important, because we really facilitate how the whole thing's going to go down. Even if you have difficult people in the group, how you lead will determine how much those difficult people affect the other people in the group. So research confirms that the client-therapist relationship is central to therapeutic change. Brain imaging technology in the emerging field interpersonal neurobiology confirms that healing changes can occur in the brain, which is huge, right? That like group can be healing, which is huge. And so group practitioners are to remain flexible and responsive. This is beneficial. Our group practitioners to critically evaluate new developments in the field of group work. There's a lot of new trends and things that are working well, though it doesn't work well. If this is an area you really want to do, I would say getting some specific training. Make sure you go to a site that really hones in on group and utilizes group. There's some sites that don't as much, other sites that do. You see group a lot in inpatient or outpatient settings. When I'm meaning that is maybe at some sort of facility. I think any sort of mental health facility has groups, whether that be like a crisis type facility, assuming everyone's safe, addiction facility, eating disorder facility. I think you have group for we have group for all different kinds of things, right? We have group for compulsive disorders, we have group for anxiety, all these different things. And so just making sure that as a group leader, you are showing kindness and empathy and unconditional regard for your clients, for the whole group, and not taking it personal, not getting defensive, not being offended when something isn't going the way you hoped, or there's this different curveball that's thrown in. No group is ever going to be the same. And so even though, one session of group, meaning like 8, let's say it was 8 sessions, like the first 8 sessions went great, you get a whole new set of people the second 8 sessions. Like, it could be a totally different dynamic, and it may not be a you thing. It could just be the personalities that are in the group. But things can be learned even in challenging situations. And sometimes a lot is learned through challenge. A lot is learned with people seeing how they behave. And they're like, oh man, I don't want to be like that. So I want to be different than Susie, right? And you can see that when it's being played out in front of you in a group kind of setting. So things to be mindful of. Group does take a matter of some courage in getting through some intimidation. I think that's why having co-leaders is really beneficial. Again, especially if it's your first time running a group, it can be very intimidating. But to have someone that supports you and has your back is important. And to make sure that you're communicating with your supervisors or whoever is putting you in these situations so you feel supported, like you understand the material and you understand the goal and the point of the group before you start leading the group, which I think is really important. I hope this is helpful, just some insight into being a group leader.